Test. There it goes. Well, this is amazing to be here with you guys. Thanks for coming to the Clinch Rent Party show. Sorry, Danny couldn't be here. I'll apologize on his behalf. He's a traveling man. Something I'm very familiar with. So I'm doing this series of gigs. It's a very small amount. I think it was supposed to be 2. It somehow became like 10. And so I guess I'm technically halfway through this run of Scott Sharrard's Endless Road shows. The whole idea for this show actually came out of me writing some essays on Substack, and people started telling me, you should do a gig where you tell some of these stories and play the songs. I said, well, that's not a bad idea. And I couldn't find any time to do it. And then Little Feat was like, well, we're going to take 3 months off. And I said, I think I'm going to do a couple of these. And I've still been kind of workshopping it. So thanks for coming to join me for this. Yes, indeed. I'm going to start with the name of that song actually came from a song I wrote many years ago, and it's a tune about my whole life, traveling and doing this for a living, and I figured it'd be apropos to start the show with it. It's called Endless Road. journey I've been on. You know, my family's from Michigan, but we moved all over the place. And, you know, a lot of people know me as being from, I was born in Ann Arbor, raised in Dearborn, right outside of Detroit, until I was 10. But what a lot of people don't know is that the sort of lost part of my bio was actually from 10 to 15, I lived in Newtown, Pennsylvania, not far from here. And my dad was a singer-songwriter growing up, and he had to figure out how to pay the bills, so we were moving all over the place. And he was working in Philly, and I got to go to my first rock concerts when I was 12, 13, 14. So one of the first ones I remember going to was at the Spectrum in Philly, and it was Jeff Beck and Stevie Ray Vaughan. So I remember. I figured I'm going to tell some different stories tonight because I think some of y'all are from that area, and you may remember going to those shows at the Spectrum. There was a pretty rich time. I remember seeing Clapton on the Journeyman tour right after that. And anyway, these shows really changed my life. That Jeff Beck, Stevie Ray thing as a guitar player, I've been playing for a couple years, and I was raised by a guitar player. And I had been checking out Jeff Beck, and I was digging on Stevie, but I hadn't really heard the right record yet. And I watched Jeff play first that night, and I remember I was 12. I turned to my dad and I said, I need to go home and practice. I'm not staying for Stevie Ray Vaughan. And he said, just wait. And he came out, and I turned to him, you know, by the end of the second song, I remember he opened with Houses Rockin', and then he played a slow blues, and at the end of that, I turned to my parents and I said, this is what I want to do with my life, is that. It was like that much of a shift in the energy. I can still feel that low E string in my chest when I think about it. So, you know, then the summer that really changed me was when I saw back-to-back Little Feat and the Allman Brothers. So this is kind of the crazy part of, you know, this music scene here actually was how I was first exposed to that. And these were the reformations of the band. So this is 89, you know, you've got Let It Roll is out and Seven Turns is out, and the bands have done the impossible. They have resurrected the Allman Brothers without Dwayne Allman. They have resurrected Little Feat without Will George. And those shows were just life-changing for me. And, you know, I grew up with a lot of, like, well, I guess they're starting to call this stuff American roots music now. I mean, I've always considered genres as something that was probably cooked up in the earliest marketing rooms of record sales. We have such a rich milieu of culture and music in our country, it feels like sacrosanct to me to have genres, really, because they're also interdependent. You can't play one if you can't play the other, so it's kind of strange, but we are good at marketing. You know, really, the blues was like always sort of the root and the gumbo in my house, and the first thing I ever learned to play on the guitar, I might have even been younger than 10. There used to be jam sessions in the living room with guitar players, and the one day they'd always start with different blues tunes, and it was a lot of these. If you guys know who Jimmy Reed is, he's one of the architects of the blues, and actually one of the architects of rock and roll, because his style of songwriting, and his wife, by the way, was his co-writer and guitarist as well. That doesn't get mentioned enough. She was also an incredible artist, and you can hear her singing all those high backup parts on his records. But the guys would often, you know, they start with like the blues, you know. This is a little like Jimmy Reed style shuffle. And I remember the first thing I ever learned to play on the guitar was going like this. And then I said, all right, well, what's next? And they go, well, just take your finger down a string. And I go, oh, that's cool, I can do that. Of course, the 5 chord was another matter. You had to learn how to play a B chord. I think I did something. I just go like this, you know. But I remember when I got the 12-bar pattern down, I was able to hold it down. And I remember distinctly the moment I held it down, I played through the 12-bar form and started it over, and somebody started soloing over that. And I said, oh my God, this is the only thing I ever want to play on the guitar. I don't need to learn anything else. But one of the reasons I'm telling you guys that is when many, many years later and lives later, I was sitting with Greg Allman somewhere at his house or on the bus or in a hotel room or wherever we were in our decade together. And he asked me anecdotally, he says, what's the first thing you ever learned to play on the guitar? And I told him that story, and he goes, son of a bitch, that's the first thing Dwayne learned, and it's the first thing he taught me. exact same pattern in the same key. So that tells you a lot across generations. You know, it's the blues is so foundational, and that rhythm pattern in particular on a guitar is really, it's really, you know, if you guys have ever heard the song, you know. Now Keith says that came to him in a dream, but really it came to him through Jimmy Reed. Because you can go. It's the same thing. But I'm going to play a little Jimmy Reed for you. Why not? I'm going to get warmed up a little bit. The blues is home, so we got to start there. Got me running, got me hiding, got me run, and run anywhere you wanna go. Yeah, yeah. You got me doing what you want me, baby, what you want me to do. Go, I'm going down, going up, down, down, up, anywhere you wanna let it roll. Yeah, yeah, you got me doing what you want me, baby, what you want me to do. Good. So lo and behold, we would end up moving to Milwaukee for yet another gig for my dad. And I had already started a couple different bands. I've always ended up in this role of being the sort of organizer, like band leader, sometimes record producer. Like I always end up in this role somehow. I'm a glutton for punishment is what it comes down to. And I ended up having my first band, playing school dances. we used to play school dances where we played before, like the Young Blues Traveler and stuff, you know. But we play these, we play these dances, and everybody would leave because we'd play like the entire Jimi Hendrix Band of Gypsies album, or Fillmore East, or whatever. So nobody was interested in what we were doing. But I got to High School of the Arts in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, about halfway through my sophomore year, and I enrolled in this really well-funded arts program. It was privately funded in a public school, and I met these incredible musicians who have been my lifelong friends. And I also had adjunct professors who were famous jazz musicians. They were playing with Elvin Jones, and there was an organ player who used to play with the great Wes Montgomery. And at night, my dad started taking me to blues clubs, and there was one called the Up and Under that had a jam session, and I sat in, and Hubert Sumlin and Pinetop Perkins used to hang out there all the time. So I went from listening to the blues to being completely immersed in it. This is in the early 1990s in Milwaukee, so this is right on the cusp of, the way we listen to music and experience music changing completely forever. So I got kind of the last generation shot of the old style of being schooled, and I went on the road with some of these guys. Willie Higgins and the great Harvey Scales, who was an amazing soul singer. I was in his band and Willie's band, and they really taught me how to play the music for real, and I was learning it at school as well. I'm happy to say there were two people who were in my jazz group the year I got there. Last year I was up for my third Grammy nomination with Little Feat this time, and yes. And for the Sam's Place record, and I, as it was coming up a few weeks before, I got messages from my two friends from my high school band. They were both nominated for Grammys. So the whole band are pros. The drummer plays with, he's Mary J. Blige's MD for like 30 years, so it's unbelievable. And a cohort of us moved to New York. So that's a whole nother show. From 96 until 2008 is like, I could write a whole book about that. Just trying to being in a band that moved here from Milwaukee and then almost getting signed over and over again, and being mentored by so many incredible label people who left the business or retired, and just one failed step after another. And finally, ironically, in the fall of 2008, I was 29, and I had convinced myself, like probably all of us do at 29, like it's over for me. So I was like going to NYU, and I'd never gone to college, so I decided I'm gonna study film scoring. That's what I wanted to do. I've always been a big movie buff, and I've got kind of a mind for that. And I thought I'll probably be good at this, and maybe I can study and become a professor, because I'm really passionate about education. So, I didn't get very far because as the material sat on my desk and festered, one day I got a call from my good buddy Jay Collins. How about it for Jay Collins? Everybody know Jay Collins? He's a saxophone player for Yvonne Helm, and he started with Greg Allman in 2000, actually. He'd been with him already 8 years at that point. And I've been playing all around New York and playing with my friends, Amy Helm and a little bit with Yvonne Helm, and just having a ball with all of them. And then Jay had been playing in Greg Allman's band this whole time, and one day he called me and he said, Greg wants to change guitar players, and by the way, can you meet me in Camden, New Jersey, or can you meet me on the Turnpike at a rest stop? And I'm going to take you to Camden to play with the Allman Brothers. And I'm like, oh my God, this is crazy. So I met him on the Turnpike, and we drove over there, and I met Greg. And the first thing that Greg, he welcomed me in his dressing room, and he was always extremely charming, and he's a natural. He's a star. He's a natural. So he made me feel very comfortable. And then the first question he asked me was, he goes, all right, man, well, I hear you can play. He goes, do you know those Wayne Bennett licks on the Bobby Bland records? And I was extremely lucky because those guys I had played with in high school had all beaten me up to learn all those licks off the Bobby Bland, Duke Peacock records, and on and on. So I was able to say yes very confidently. And I got up with the Allman Brothers, and I played it was like most things with the Allman Brothers, it was a blues. I think it was You Don't Love Me, and I remember throwing a couple Wayne licks at him, and he started laughing and slapping his leg. I said, all right, well, this isn't going too badly. And I walked off the stage, and the road manager comes up to me, and he goes, you're in Greg's band. We'll see you in Savannah, Georgia in a week. Didn't end up going right away because he got sick. He had to have interferon treatment, and then a few months went by, and then December 2008, in fact, my first Greg Allman gig was on my 30th birthday, December 28th, 2008. Isn't that something else? So I'm going to play I'm going to start with what I always considered to be Greg's sort of theme song. We used to sing this tune together all the time at birthday parties. We did a lot of touring the tour bus, doing private things. Around to keep from hiding, and I'm bound to keep on riding. I got one more silver dollar, and I'm not gonna let him catch me though. Not gonna let him catch me now. that guy. Yeah. Danny shot that was one of the pictures. He shot a bunch of photos of me here in Asbury, actually, and it was for my last solo album. It was my 6th solo album. There's no more copies of it, sadly, but you can stream it everywhere. It's called Rust Belt, and I'm super proud of the record, but I got really lucky. I've known Danny through Greg, of course. There's some pictures in rotation of when Danny first sat in with us, and you'll see a short-haired me. It's probably about 2009 or 10, I would say, the shots are from. So that's how I met Danny, and, he's obviously an incredible artist and amazing guy, and I wish he was here, because he has some great Greg stories also about hanging with him. But these shots he took of me were right here in Asbury in it might have been the end of 2020 or 2021. I remember we had to do the whole shoot outside. We couldn't be inside together. It was still during that whole period. But I really love the man's work. And so with Greg, right, I started that as his guitar player, but he always looked at his band as like his band. He used to say, the Allman Brothers is my brother's band. He's like, that's Dwayne's band. He's like, this band is my band. That's what he would always say. So that was like our pep talk. So no pressure. So we, when I joined, it was a thing where he had a concept of what he wanted to do, but he wasn't really sure how to implement it or who to do it with yet. And the first shot across the bow was he met with T-Bone Burnett. He'd been on one of those speaking clock shows. And T-Bone had pitched him doing a blues album. Now, Greg, he'd say the blues is all that matters. That's to him was like I was saying earlier, the roux and the gumbo, So he was excited about that. And at the time, in the Greg Allman Band, this is like 2009, 2010, we had this all-star band. We had Steve Potts from Booker T and the MGs, the legendary Jerry Jamad on bass, Bruce Katz on keys, Jay Collins, and Floyd Miles. So we were cooking, and we thought, we're really going to come up with something, and this is a good music business story. So we were all set to go, work with T-Bone Burnett, and a couple weeks before, we're informed that our tickets have been canceled, and T-Bone's going to be using his own band. Now, that was not a nice way to find out about things. And Greg called all of us in individually, and he said, look, guys, I'm going to get you on the next one. I just got to get through this thing. And I love the record, actually. It's Slow Country Blues. Danny shot the pictures for it. It's an incredible record. So we toured the world on that record, and Greg, in the midst of it, got himself a brand new liver, which was life-changing for him in so many great ways. Lit up like a light bulb right away, and he came to me one day after we'd been through this album cycle and touring the world and him getting this liver transplant, and he's like, man, I hear everyone's been talking about, you have your own band you're touring with, and you got your own music and stuff, and he's like, I love singing with you, and I love your voice. He's like, I want to hear some of your music. So this is back when the phones used to, you put the iPhone in the computer, and it would like sync with the iTunes, and that was the only way to get it done. So he gave me the task, and I'm somewhat of a Luddite myself, so he gave me the task of putting my albums on his phone. Now, I don't remember how I screwed this up exactly, but I plugged it into my computer, and I put all my records that I had made on his phone, and I said, all right, well, that's done. I handed him his phone. He's like, thanks, man. I can't wait to hear this stuff. A couple days later, his best friend Shank, who used to tour with him, he comes and finds me in the dressing room, and he's like, Scott, you got to come up to Greg's room. And I thought something was wrong, so I was nervous, and I got up there, and Greg's like, he's got one of my songs blasting in his dressing room, and he goes, man, you didn't tell me that you did stuff like this. He's like, I thought I was listening to all these different artists. He goes, you erased my whole phone. I've been listening to nothing but your records for a couple of days. And he goes, I thought it was just my iTunes playing different music. And then he grabbed the guitar, and he had learned bits and bobs of a couple of my tunes, and we workshopped some stuff. We rehearsed some things with the band. That tune I opened the show with, Endless Road, he sang for a while. He was thinking of recording that. But then, few months later, I get a call at 2 in the morning from Greg that I ignore. I get up and I put on the voicemail again, music blasting. I can barely understand what's going on in the background. And over again, he's going, "Kerosene, this is the tune." So I called him and I said, "What's going on?" And he's like, "Man, this tune, Love Like Kerosene, we're going to do this." I said, "Okay, we'll give it a shot," thinking with my band leader's set list making head. And we rehearsed it, and it sounded really good. And he goes, "All right, man, when you make this set list, I want to close the show with this and not whipping post." I go, "Craig, we can't close the show with this. I'm not doing it." And he's like, "Do it." So I don't remember where we were, but we closed the show with Kerosene, and we got a standing ovation. And he comes up to me, and he goes, "You see?" And I go, "Now let's play whipping post, okay?" And we did. So everything was right in the world after that. But we used to play it really fast, and if you ever hear the album Back to Making Live that we made, which we made on a wing and a prayer, one take, no overdubs, we were sort of an afterthought still at this point with the business side of things, but it's really fast. He used to like to play it fast. Like, I can't even play it as fast as he used to play it. On there, it's like just really high octane kind of thing. But then we were hired to play at one of these birthday parties with a couple acoustic guitars, and you could picture us in rural New England somewhere on someone's estate outside. It's pouring rain. There's a tent. Someone's having a birthday, and there's like 20 guys in a tent. Right, that's the gig. So I'm looking around going, we have 30 minutes. We're just going to play the hits, get the hell out of here, get the check, hit the road. So we had to check the PA. So I go, all right, we'll sound check with like Midnight Rider or something. And Greg comes up to me and he goes, "What's on the list?" And I told him, and he goes, "No, man, we got to play every show." He would demand that we played this song of mine, Love Like Kerosene. I don't know why he liked it so much. I just like this song. So I go, "Okay, well, you want to do Kerosene, like in this tent that's flooding, where we have to play for 30 minutes for people who just want to hear the hits?" And he's like, "Yeah." And I go, "Well, it's really fast, Greg. Like, what are we doing here?" And he goes, "Well, figure out how to play it slow." So I sat there and I thought about, we've been listening to a lot of Howlin' Wolf recently on the bus. I thought about Smokestack Lightning. So I took that fast riff, started going like this. "Stop." I go, "What do you think?" And he goes, "That's the only way we're playing it from now on." And then lo and behold, when we were putting together the songs for the Southern Blood record, which I'll talk about more in a moment, we were sitting around in these hangs with Don Was, who was producing it, and every time we met, Greg's like, "And we got to do Kerosene the right way." So I'm going to play it for you now. So this is a tune I wrote in 2010 that Greg covered twice, as it turned out, 2 different ways. So we're going to do it slow today because I'm by myself. Been spending all my money, started smoking cigarettes. You can hear going near the fire. The love as I can see.
you. Zach, if I could get a little more water up here, that'd be great. Thanks, man. All right, well, the Southern Blood album. So I mentioned us getting together with Don Was and putting that record together, which was very late in the stages of the next song I'm going to talk about. So, you know, Greg Allman and I, we started right after that dressing room thing where I accidentally erased his phone and put all my records on it, and he started singing my stuff. He said to me, he's like, we need to write together, you know, and he kept saying that, and I didn't really know whether to take it seriously at first or not. I mean, Greg had been through, this is like in 2011, 2012, he'd been through a long spell of not writing songs for many, many, many years. And when you think about a guy who's written some of the most important songs ever written over and over again, I think he felt a tremendous amount of pressure to deal with it. And I think he was looking for a co-writer for that reason. And we started by, you know, we used to hang all the time on the bus, and we started by writing this blues tune that ended up becoming a song called Everything a Good Man Needs, which I ended up actually recording after Greg passed away, because Taj Mahal found a demo of him and I playing it together and he wanted to sing it, and I said, go for it. And he said, no, I want to sing it on your record. I hear you're mixing an album, and it ended up being on my 5th solo record, Saving Grace, which I found the last 20 CDs of the other day, because I'm friends with all my old managers. So I did bring them with me, actually. So I did record that first song we wrote eventually, but we didn't do it when Greg was still with us. It just, the vibe of it was just too funky for the Southern Blood theme and what we were doing with covers on that record and such. So we had that blues tune in the bag in 2012 or so, and you know, I kept going to his house when I was off the road for a few days at a time, where we would have these writing sessions. And I'm going to tell you, it was kind of like songwriting Survivor, because at this point the APB had gone out to a number of great songwriters, and to be honest with you, there'd be 3 or 4 of them at the house at once, all in the bedrooms sometimes when I'd get there. And we'd all have our turn with Greg. It's a very strange environment, actually, now that I think about it. This is back when I used to smoke copious amounts of marijuana, and with Greg usually. And one night I was up very late with him, and we got extremely high. And I remember I had just flown in, and there was no room because there were so many people staying in his house, which is this beautiful home in Richmond Hills outside of Savannah, Georgia, in the swamp on this giant property with a boat slip that went out to the ocean in a fishing boat. Really amazing place. And the only room that was available that night was his elderly mother's room, because she wasn't there. So I went to my assigned room, middle of the night, just super, like, Cheech and Chong level high, barely walk. And I get in there and I pass out on the bed, and as I'm passing out, I look, and I see all the photos of Dwayne and Greg, from babies to military school to all the way up to playing with the Allman Brothers and with Greg beyond. And I passed out, and at about, I don't know, it must have been 5 in the morning or something, I woke up from a dream, like, when you wake up from a dream and it's like you just watched a movie. So I woke up from that dream, and that dream was Dwayne talking to Greg, and he spoke to him a version of the first verse and chorus line of the song. He said, you and I know that this river is going to flow to an end. Keep me in your heart. Keep your soul on the mend. You and I know the road is, he said something like, our only true friend or something. So I jumped out of this dream, right, 5 in the morning. I had my diary there that I've been doing all our lyrics in, and I start writing this down, right? And I look at it, I go, holy shit, this is going to be a song. And then I thought about how it came to me, and I was like, fuck, that's complicated for him. So I ran downstairs, I grabbed my acoustic guitar, and I went out on the patio of the pool, and the sun was coming up over the swamp, with the Spanish moss and stuff, so very cinematic. And I just started going like this. This is going to go really well with these words. And eventually, started playing around with the other chords, and spent the next couple hours just trying to craft what we now know as sort of the first third of the song, essentially. Now, many hours later, Greg came downstairs, and, say 12 p.m. or so. And I grabbed him before he could even drink his coffee, and I said, I have to play this for you. And I played him the song as we know it, up to where the pre-chorus starts. And then I just had, you and I both know the road's our only true friend. Like, I had that line that was like hanging. And he goes, this is the song. And I said, wow, okay, let's get to work on it. So a year passes of working on this song, okay? And we form the song as you know it, essentially in its melody, but there was something with the pre-chorus with the lyrics that wasn't coming together, and we were trying all kinds of different things. And then one day he was in New York City for the Allman Brothers Beacon run, and I got the call to go to his hotel from his friend Chank. And he's like, man, there's some heavy shit going on. You gotta come over here. You gotta talk to Greg in person. So I go over, I meet with Greg. He tells me I just saw this doctor, and he's telling me I basically have like 6 months to live. They found this cancer that got away from my liver and my chest, and he said it's basically, it was in this area. I'm no doctor, God knows, but it was in this area of his chest where if they operated, he wouldn't be able to speak again. So he opted for. He told me, he's like, I'm going to go for the, I guess it was chemo or whatever oral treatment there was for it. It was a big decision because if he had had it removed, I think he would have survived. So this is essentially, he was telling me he wanted to sing. And we dealt with that, and we talked for a while, and then I was basically ready to go back to my apartment. And he said, no, wait, let's work on the song. And we started working on it. And then we got to that part that we couldn't get, and he reached over on this piece of paper, which I gave it to the Big House Museum in Macon, Georgia. If you ever go, it's in the front in this display case with all his lyrics. And you'll see my terrible public school handwriting, and then you'll see his beautiful military school handwriting. And he writes, crosses everything out, but you can still read a little underneath. And he writes, I hope you're haunted by the music of my soul when I'm gone. And he wrote that whole pre-chorus right there, right in front of me, after telling me that. And I said, oh, this is the song we're writing now. Like the song was kind of like a love song before that, and then I realized, oh, this is becoming his goodbye song now. And we kept working on it, and we played it live one time. I remember it distinctly. Dan Toller was there, the great guitar player from his band from the 80s. That's why I remember it so well, I think. We played it mid-show, and it didn't have a third verse yet. And when we finished it at that show, it got a standing ovation for like well beyond a minute or two. And Greg looked at me kind of like, oh shit, I think this song works. But he still felt like it was missing something. So we didn't play it again live for the next couple months. The band is itching to play it. We had this amazing band. We brought in Mark Quinones from the Allman Brothers Band on percussion, who was really like the lieutenant of the whole thing. Mark's amazing. And we go to Muscle Shoals, to Fame Studios, and that was the place where Greg cut his first ever record with his brother, with their band, their high school band, with Rick Hall producing. And Rick Hall was there, and for Greg, it was like, I mean, it really came full circle, right? He made his first record there. He ended up making his last record there. I don't think it was a coincidence he chose that place. He had lived, at this point, well beyond the projections for how long he would last under the tree, and he was singing great. So we were all on the road a lot, and we get into this session, and the first day passes, the second day, the third day. Now, we only have 7 days or something to cut this whole record, and Greg's singing live. We're playing live in the studio. So halfway through the week, I turned to Mark Quinones, who was really close with Greg for many years before I was around, and I said, dude, like, we're not doing the only song that he wrote, like My Only True Friend. That's the song he and I wrote together. We haven't tried to even record it yet. We've done all these covers. And he's like, man, he keeps saying he's missing something. And Mark suggested to me a third verse. So that night, I went back to my hotel room in Florence, Alabama, and I was so frustrated. And this is years we've been writing this song, trying to get it on this record. And everyone believes in the song, but Greg won't cut it. So then I wrote the third verse, which is could have easily has been about me as it was about Greg. It's still on and on I roam. Still it feels like home's just around the bend. I've got so much left to give, but I'm running out of time, my friend. That's when that came to me. So I scrawled it out on his lyric sheet. The next day when he came in, we'd already been rehearsing for a couple hours. And I was the band leader, so I was having the band, Don was having me and the band run the song over and over, so we were tightened up on it. And when he walked in, I handed him his lyric sheet, and I had scrawled in my terrible handwriting the third verse. He looked at it and read it a couple times. He sat there, and he goes, let's cut it. And he went in the booth, and that's the first time he ever sang those words. And that vocal is one take. The vocal on the record is the first time he ever sang those words of that third verse, and that got it over the hump. And, you know, after he passed away, we were very lucky. The record and the song were nominated for Grammys. It really, I think if he had survived to sing it more, it really would have been something interesting as well. But before the album was released, the management said, Scott, you know, we'd like you to see a mock-up of the cover of the album now. And keep in mind that I never told Craig, even in the last moments of his life when I was with him, about the Twain Dream, because I was so worried that would spook him about the song. His brother was so important to him, and I really wanted to finish the work. I felt like if there was anything that was going to get in the way of this song being shared with the world, it shouldn't be put in his face. So I never did tell him about the dream. In the end, it doesn't really matter. But when I saw the mock-up of the album cover, I had told no one at this point about the writing of the song, the story of how the song came together, any of it. And lo and behold, the cover of the album is the sun coming up over Greg's pool at his house, which is where I wrote the intro. So I'm going to play it for you now, My Only True Friend. You and I both know this river will surely flow to an end. So keep me in your heart, keep your soul on me. And I hope you're haunted by the music of my soul. When I'm gone, please go fly away, find you a new love. I just can't face living this life alone. Can't bear to think this might be the end. But you and I both know the road is my only true friend. Another night alone, but I see you in my dreams sometimes. No matter where I go, good Lord knows you were always on my mind. And I hope you're haunted by the music of my soul. When I'm gone, please go fly away, find you a new love. Just can't face living this life alone. Can't bear to think this might be the end. You and I both know the road is my only true friend. Still on and on I'm home. It feels like home, just around the bend. And I've got so much left to give, but I'm burning out of time, my friend. You and I both know the world is my only true friend. You and I both know the world is my only true friend. You. So after Greg passed away, I spent a couple of years on the road with my band, which was very humbling. I had never tried to do a solo tour before, per se. And I ended up traveling all over the world, playing my music with my band. And we made, I mentioned my last solo album, Rust Belt. I made it with those guys, my friends, Eric Calvin, Brett Bass. And I was honestly just thinking about, going into some other areas. It was getting pretty rough out there. But rock and roll has a way of pulling you back in very strange ways. So kind of like that phone call I got from Jay Collins to go to Camden, New Jersey and play with the Allman Brothers Band. One day I got a call from Jay Collins again. And this time he had been playing saxophone in Little Feat. And he said, Scott, he goes, Larry Campbell and Teresa Williams, good friends of ours, are out here playing all these gigs with Little Feat, because Paul Barrera is too ill to play, but they can't make the last 2 shows of a 3-week tour. And those 2 shows are in a couple weeks. And he said, I'm out here with Bill Payne right now. He remembers you because we had toured with Greg Allman and the Doobie Brothers. I had sat in with the Doobie Brothers about a dozen times on these tours. And Bill had remembered me playing guitar, but I hadn't sang with the Doobies. And he was asking around. Now, lo and behold, everyone he's asking is people I know. So they're going, get Scott Sharrard. He's hearing it over and over again. And he's like, Jesus Christ, this fucking guy. He gets to Jay, and Jay is the straw that breaks the camel's back, because Jay goes, I'm getting him on the phone right now. So he calls me, and I said, it'd be an honor to do this. And I talked to Bill, and Bill was amazing, of course. And he says to me, he goes, look, do the best you can. We want you to sing Lowell's tunes. We want you to, play guitar and all this. But he goes, look, you got to know something. He goes, everybody who plays with Little Feat, they say they know our music, and then they sit in with us and they realize they do not know our music. He's like, it's very particular. It's very difficult. I said, look, Bill, if this makes you feel any better, I said, when I was 13, I put a picture of Lowell George on my wall next to Jimi Hendrix and Chuck Berry, and I said, he was my white middle-class suburban hero, because I looked at him and I'm like, well, if that guy can play slide guitar and sing soul music, maybe I can give it a shot. He was delighted by that, enough that he had some confidence. So a couple weeks later, after I did all the homework, I did all the homework. I re-memorized everything. I showed up with no paper at all for what I needed to play. I did the sound check. It was at a venue in Long Island, and Jay Collins calls me again. He's calling me from the Little Feat band bus, and he says, Scott, I got some bad news. And I said, what's going on? And he goes, well, the whole band just found out that Paul Barrera just passed away. So this is, as they're driving over to meet me for the first time, the only guy I knew was Bill. So my rehearsal was canceled to play my first gig with them. And a couple hours later, they came in. I got to meet everyone. They were lovely, of course. And we ran some endings and things like that. And they're like, okay, I think this is going to be all right. And then Bill comes up to me as we're getting ready to go on stage. And I'm freaking the fuck out, to be honest with you, because this music is very difficult. And I really want to do a good job. job, and I know it's only 2 gigs, and everything is so screwed up about this day. They found out their friend is dead, and Bill comes up to me and he says, all right, so what we're going to do is, I'm going to walk out there with you, and we're going to tell everyone that Paul has passed away, and then we're going to play the show. Oh, great. All right. So we did the gig, and I was getting enough good feedback. Nobody left or asked for their money back that I know of. I may have, actually, but nobody left. And at the end of the gig, Bill walks across the stage, and he gives me his hand. He gives me a big handshake, grabs me by the shoulder, and he goes, "You do know our music." And I went downstairs, and Fred Tackett turns to me, and he goes, "All right, man, well, you're in the band now. What do we do next?" And that was it. And I got pulled back in by my heroes one more time. So I'm going to start by playing one of the great, as he called them, cracked mosaics of the late Old George, one of my all-time heroes. Drunk wine with kings and queens, darling, oh darling, you're the best thing I've ever seen. I want you to roll easy, so slow and easy. Take my independence with no apprehension, no tension. Walk in sweet paradise, sweet paradise. I've been across this country, from Denver to the ocean, but I've never heard girls that sing so sweet, like the angels that live in Houston, singing oh easy, so slow and easy. Play that concertina bit temptress. Baby, I'm defenseless, singing harmony in unison, sweet harmony, yeah. Gotta raise a flag and beat that drum. So yeah, that was a hell of a thing to come into the Little Feat family. And of course, this year we're starting our farewell tour, though I wouldn't put too much stock in it being ending anytime soon. I think I'll just say that our management is the same people who work with Leonard Skinner and Peter Frampton. I'll leave it at that. But we will be tearing it up this year, going all over the place. But I'm going to play. I'll do a couple more Little Feat things for y'all before I have to go. Yeah, indeed. Why not, right? This next tune, it's funny. I remember doing my first gig ever when I was like 12 or 13 at a cafe with my dad, somewhere. I think it was actually somewhere in New Jersey. I think it was somewhere in Princeton or something. And we played this song, and we did Easy to Slip. He used to sing those too. So I'm going to play it for you now. This one is... I don't know. I really think this has always been one of my favorite songs of all time, and I never, ever, ever get old. It never gets old to me, this song. I just love it so much, and if y'all want to help me, you're welcome to. I'm sure you'll know it. Worked by the rain, driven by the snow, drunk and dirty. Don't you know that I'm still out on the road late at night? See my pretty Alice in every light Alice, Dallas Alice. On the bar, drilling every kind of way it's ever been made. I've driven the back roads on wooden days, and if you get me, I know you know what I'm talking about. Show me a sign. I'll be willing to be moving. I've been kicked by the wind, robbed by the sleep, and my head stolen, but I'm still on my feet, and I'm still willing. Smuggled some folks from Mexico, baked by the sun, every time I go to Mexico, and I'm still. No way. I'm not touching that. That'd be like rewriting the Gettysburg Address. So speaking of writing songs for Little Feat, so we did this blues album that they had been talking about for 40 years with Sam Clayton, right? So we went to Memphis with some friends of mine at Sam Phillips Recording and made Sam's Place. And Sam and Fred and I wrote one song on that record, but as we were making that, you know, everyone in the band was coming up with original songs. And we finally said, my God, we're going to have to make a Little Feat album. So last year we released Strike Up the Band, 13 new original songs. Yes, indeed. I hope everyone's heard it. You never know these days. And it was really an unbelievable honor to be in the studio with those guys and have a few of the tunes on the record were songs I had written. And to be honest with you, I wrote them all between February 2020 and like June 2020, all four of them. They were all like pandemic-inspired tunes, except for the one I'm going to play for you. This one I wrote shortly after I went to Jamaica with them, and I had kind of a conscious thought of I wanted to encapsulate. At that point, I'd played several gigs with them, and I wanted to get, you know, that special Little Feat groove where they combine, you know, New Orleans funk, rock and roll. They're just the best band to ever do it. And I came up with a little riff, and I wrote this little tune, and it's done pretty well for me recently with these guys. It was a real honor to cut it with them. And I'm going to play it for you now. It's called Midnight Flight.
To be free, yeah, that silver bird flying across the seven seas. What's wrong with you? Oh, why take so long? Can't take another lonely night to be where I belong. I'm gonna fly to you. Almost where we need to be, yeah. You're the only one for me. Will I fly to you? Only will I fly to you. Skyscrapers reaching up to touch the morning clouds. Taxis keep on honking, city so loud. You'll find your way in that summer crowd. Hoping love will smile for me. Can't wait to feel your heartbeat on my chest. Gonna fly to you. Almost wherever you to be. Guys? I just want to thank everyone here at the gallery. They've just been amazing hosting me today, and thanks for having y'all. And did everybody eat all the donuts? So there's only 2 boxes of donuts. There's some amazing donut shop here. They were so nice. Is anyone here from the donut shop? Oh, amazing. Those donuts are incredible. They remind me a little bit of the Voodoo donuts from Portland. Man, really amazing. You guys made a Southern blood flavor. So yeah, I'm gonna see y'all out on the road, I guess. I'm gonna be, if anyone wants to take this ride with me again, I'm gonna be at City Winery in New York City on April 26th doing this. And that will be the last one for a long time. I could tell y'all too, besides the Little Feat tour, it's official, Fred Tackett and I are gonna be going on the road together as a duo. And in fact, we're making an album as a duo, acoustic duo, coming up. That we're going to put out sometime before the year's over. So, a lot of cool stuff going on. And like I said, it means so much to me that you all are here. I mean, this is, like I said, I did like 2 of these gigs, and then it turned into like 10 of these things, and you all showed up, and it's just amazing. Thank you so much. So it's just us. It's just me and my Honda Fit with an acoustic guitar and y'all. It's no one else involved in this. It's like kind of fucking incredible, really, when you think about it. So thank you for supporting me, and thanks for getting me out of the house. It's kind of a minor miracle these days. I got 2 little kids that I love more than anything, and I've been spending a lot of time with them, which has been incredible. But you know, I got to come out and see y'all and play music. It's what I'm born for, so it means the world to be with you doing this. All right, so now, all that said, one more thing is, I actually have merch that I met. This is a real story. A month ago, I had dinner with my old manager, and he handed me this box, and he had all these limited edition jewelry items and CDs and stuff I hadn't seen in years, and I brought some of it with me tonight, so it's at that table, so I don't know if you guys remember, but CDs, anyone remember, they were compact discs. Yeah, they were the vinyl records of the 90s for our younger audience members. So anyway, if you want to take something home, take it, because it is the last of the last, and there shall be no more physical product. All right, so y'all, you have to help me out on this, because this song is impossible to play by myself. You may not want to clap because it's very difficult to keep track of the rhythm, but you have to sing, okay? We have a deal? Everyone's going to help me sing on this one. All right, one more. Oh, the white picket fence and boardwalk.
guitar player so complete. She always liked to sing along. She always handled with a song. And night in the lobby, yeah, at the Commodore Hotel, had a chance to meet a bartender who's selling new well. And as he handed me a drink, he began to have a song. All the boys there at the bar began to sing along. If you be my business again, I'll be your Tennessee man. We can walk together down in there, sing that, down in there, sing that. Oh, 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 oh. Make it strong, it's the last act. Yeah. Thanks so much, guys. Y'all been amazing. Thank you, Clinch Gallery. I'll see y'all real soon. Thanks for coming.